guess I'll just say welcome. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We are a congregation that finds truth and inspiration from many spiritual paths and in community. We help each other practice justice, inclusion, and love. Your faith, your doubts, and your identity are welcome here. Find ways to get involved in your bulletin and to stay up to date for all that is happening. Sign up for our weekly e-news through the office. Children are welcome in the sanctuary at any time, and there's also nursery care activities for young children following the story. Join us this Wednesday evening for the Tupper Supper, and following that there will be a fireside chat on eco-ableism by Lexi Dunn. Join us at 12:30 in the Commons for a birthday potluck dinner. Let's see. I give a lot of. Okay, we every month we have an offering goes out the doors to organizations working for justice in the community, and for this month we support We Bike Rochester. It's our social justice partner for the month. Here is Matt Lynch to tell us about We Bike Rochester, and you can also see him down at a table after the service. Following Matt, we will have an announcement by the board.
Good morning. As Greg shared, I'm Matt Lynch. I'm representing We Bike Rochester today, and I want to thank you all so much for the opportunity to join services this morning and share a bit about our organization. I also want to share a special thanks to the Social Justice Shared Ministry team for the invitation to be this month's partner. Let's start with a quick activity. I'm going to ask each of you to raise your hand as you're comfortable and able if you've done any of the following, okay, in Rochester. Have you joined a We Bike Rochester group ride or event? Please raise your hand. I thought I saw some familiar faces. Keep your hands raised, please. Up, up, up. All right, taking public transit, raise your hands. Cross the street by walking or rolling, raise your hands. That's most of you. That's amazing. Thank you. Please keep your hands raised for the next 10 minutes. All right, you can lower your hands. Nobody followed directions anyway. I was kidding. All right, now I want to invite you to imagine your son biking to his friend's house on his own, building confidence and independence. Your great aunt, no longer able to drive, she's walking safely to the library or rolling to meet her friends year-round, keeping her connected to her community and eliminating isolation that can blanket so many. You, boarding clean electric bus that drops you right at your destination. No parking stress. Much of this is already in progress, and that's what We Bike Rochester is all about. While bikes are in our name, our mission is much broader, as you heard. It's for dignity, opportunity, and belonging through safe, people-centered transportation options. We believe everyone, regardless of age, ability, or income, deserves reliable ways to get around where they need to go. We work through advocacy, education, and programming focused on walking, rolling, bicycling, and transit. We teach kids and adults how to bike safely and push for policies that make streets safer and more connected, and support infrastructure that links neighborhoods, like safer crossings at Silver Lake Bridge and People First design at 18th Avenue Southwest. We build community through events like the Med City Meander, which is coming up on May 24th, which brought over 800 people to our multi-use trails last year. We repair and donate bikes to those who need them and maintain adaptive bikes so everyone can ride. From those we've helped, we've heard, I can't afford transportation every day. I'm disabled and need low-impact exercise. A bike frees up the car so my wife can get to her medical appointments. Thank you for the chance to share what we do. We're building a Rochester that prioritizes people, neighborhoods, and safe connections. If you'd like to volunteer, get involved, we'd love to hear from you. I'll be at the table downstairs after services. And your donations support and help create a city where everyone, from kids who are finding their freedom to older adults who are maintaining theirs, can move safely and freely. Thank you so much.
So somewhere floating around this building is the paper that had all the words that I wanted to speak to you today. No idea where it is, but I thankfully I do have my phone, so I'm going to be speaking from my phone. So anyhow, last week the board initiated sharing tables, providing an opportunity for board members to hear from you about how we can support you during this crazy time in the church and this crazy time in our community. And in our discussions last week, there were some really thought-provoking talks, and these are a couple of things that people talked about. One was that members emphasized recruiting more volunteers to committees and activities. Our current volunteers, especially that are building our future team, are doing great work. We really appreciate them, but it might be a good idea to get a few fresh faces in there to help relieve some of the workload that they're having to go through. Others voiced safety concerns and suggested forming support teams that can work with others who are feeling unsafe in this community that we're experiencing right now. And another person proposed creating talking points and issue statements that transcend partisanship and simply address the pain and injustice affecting people in our community. So the board has made a commitment to be present between services during the entire month of April. We're available and anxious to meet with you. We're at it again today, down in the lobby. So get yourself a cup of coffee, bring us a donut hole, and stop by our table and talk to us about what's going on with you and how we can serve you better. We really want to hear from you. Thanks.
Let us center our worship this morning with these words from the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, minister of this church in the 1870s. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. In a moment, the music will call us back, but now I invite you to give a brief hello to those online and those around you. Please rise in body and spirit.
Justice-seeking people. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. Young and old together. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are trans and queer together. We are trans and queer together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are trans and queer together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Thank you.
The child sliding words come from the radical Unitarian minister Theodore Parker. Many say duty, duty, work, work, rather than joy, joy. Religion without joy is not religion. In joy, we light our chalice.
I'd like to invite the children forward. I have my Wonder Box to share today. Let's see if I shake it. Do you actually hear anything?
Yes!
What do you hear?
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you think it is? Do you think what's in here is hard or soft?
I think it's hard.
Very soft.
Well, I think it's hard. Having this part is soft and this.
Soft around the outside. What do you think? You think there's air inside? Yep, there's definitely air inside. But here, let me show you what I have in here today. What do I have today?
Oh no, you stole!
A scarf.
Oh
What-
no, you stole a pasta
What
scarf!
kind of what kind of scarf is it?
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. It is marigold yellow. Just for clarification, it is marigold yellow. Because it's a very special yellow scarf. What kind of yellow scarf?
I don't know.
You don't know?
A pasta scarf?
Anybody?
Pasta
What?
scarf?
A soft scarf? Anybody? Anybody? What kind of scarf is this? Side with love scarf.
No, it's a pasta scarf.
Hold on.
Pasta scarf.
Okay. It is like a pastor scarf, kind of, but not. That's called a stole. This would be for somebody a lot shorter than Luke. For Derek. That would work. But when we look at this, how does this make you feel when you see this scarf?
I'm happy
Happy? Why does it make you happy?
because I love yellow.
You love yellow? How about you, How about you, Hazel? Oh, like a gold trophy? Oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that. I kind of feel extra special now. Feel the same? So, does everybody out here feel good when they look at the yellow scarf? Sense of belonging. Sense of belonging. If I told you that I look at this scarf and I feel angry and sad sometimes? Yeah. Why do you think it might make me feel angry and sad? Any ideas?
Because Simon.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Oliver. Do you have anything to share? No? Sometimes it can be bad, yeah. And the reason why sometimes it makes me feel bad is because, is because sometimes I have to think about why we need this yellow scarf. And that can make me sad. But the fact that everybody in here, your first response was that this scarf makes you happy, maybe even joyful, like if you saw yellow underneath everybody's coats yesterday at the protest, because there's a solidarity in being together. And while it is the sadness that brings us together, it is the joy that keeps us going. I'm going to hold your 2 questions because we get to talk more about this when we go down. Okay? So, oh, I know it's so tough. Hold on one second. Joe's going to play the children's benediction. We're going to go down and I will get your questions. The lyrics can be found in the back inside cover of your hymnals.
May peace surround you. May love surround you as you go. On your way.
Joy to the world. You all know the song. No, not the one sung by the rock group Three Dog Night in the 70s, which proclaimed Jeremiah was a bullfrog. But the Christmas Carol. It was penned by an English minister as a poem to celebrate Christ the King, and eventually, as these things go, morphed into a Christmas carol. We don't really need the next line, in my mind, "The Lord has come," because I think we're too awash in them already. I would rather reflect on the actual event of a baby being born. One of the very first things a newborn baby does is to cry. But the second and most amazing and wonderful thing that a newborn baby does is to bring joy to the world, without, I might add, having any previous experience. Most of us have at one time or other experienced such an event, but more importantly, we ourselves have been the star of such an event. Yes, all of us. If you think for one moment, it's true. One of the first things we ever did in our lives was bring joy to the world around us, and all we had to do is gurgle a little, wiggle our tiny fingers, and puff out our cheeks a little more. Doesn't seem too difficult, does it? Yet as we age, things that come so easy to a baby gets overrun by the business of the world, and joy can be fleeting. Some Christian beliefs state that joy can only be found by giving oneself over completely to Christ. And while I can understand this, it sounds a little bit too much of a parlor trick to me. It's the sort of thing that never worked for me because my search for truth led me down a path of questioning and wondering, stopping sometimes just short of cynicism, which I confess occasionally needs to be brought under control. What we are experiencing in American culture today can be nothing less than a huge obstacle to experiencing lasting joy, Jesus notwithstanding. With these emotional challenges, it's easy to enter into a crisis mode that begins to hinder our ability to function as a happy person. And if I didn't know better, I would say pursed lips and a furrowed skull has replaced the image of a sharp-eyed and intelligent profile of a bald eagle as our national symbol. I rest my case. As a result, the song that best expresses my feelings about joy that I may want to sing is a song by Lucinda Williams, who says, "You took my joy and I want it back." And so begins the difficult process of recapturing some of our joy. For me, just seeing all the visually creative and humorous commentary that our nation has has brought me some joy amidst the current spiritual crisis. And I saw a lot of them in St. Paul yesterday, believe me. And make no mistake, it has morphed into a spiritual crisis as we see the degree of disrespect, lack of decency, which has led to support of hatred. We are here today to recognize that we are not alone in hope, and those of us who are willing and able will step up and stand with others and make contributions to regaining our lost liberty and justice in this confusing world, and maybe restore some joy. We must somehow regain our emotional strength in order to prevent our spirits from being beaten down. In our worship associate meeting, Darren reminded us that in Buddhism, joy is something that must be practiced. This concept holds weight with me because sometimes I imagine life as one big playing field where we are constantly practicing as we learn from each other to do this life thing a little bit better. So I'm in pursuit of ways to recognize my rage and yet practice joy. For a living, I sketch people's faces in a quick black and white caricature style, mostly young people, mostly at post-prom or graduation parties, sometimes weddings. I know that when I draw, I have to smile because it holds me in a state of joy so that I can draw with confidence. And believe it or not, I do need this confidence. At times I prompt people to smile, and people look better this way, and so they put on a smile. As I sketch, there are times I actually forget to tell them I no longer need them to smile, and I start thinking, wow, they must really be enjoying this, when in fact their faces are ready to crack. It shows how convincing even a pretend smile can be, and how it can affect others. At times when I observe older people's faces, I have witnessed faces that look like they are in a permanent frown with the corners of their mouths locked down in a downward curve, while others still hold a ready smile. Life, it seems, can weigh on us all. But I started thinking that I don't want this to be me, so I've started putting more effort into practicing a smile whenever I can think about it. And if you catch me downstairs, don't be afraid to point it out. But I start, even when news is particularly horrid and discouraging, I will hold the line on preventing the scowl of our current leader and practice being cheerful, even though it might have to involve some satirical humor, which still allows the fires of my inner rage to burn. Practice, practice. So I've recently learned about an Irish phrase when talking about the weather. If you walk into an establishment, and it doesn't have to be a pub necessarily, but someone may ask, "What's it like out there?" And the reply might be something like this: "It's fierce mild." I love this phrase. I think we could all take inspiration from it. Think hippies putting flowers into gun barrels, Gandhi walking for miles, or Martin Luther King marching in song. When we become weary you-yous and can no longer sustain our rage, we can always be fierce mild. It's commonly touted that resistance is useless, and it may well be, but it's darn good for the soul. We will now take the offering.
Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. It's our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here, we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Mary Jane McCarty, serving as our caring coordinator, arranging care for our members and friends in need. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. And life can be challenging. We could all use some extra support with what life throws at us. And if you are experiencing those challenges in your life, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. If you need additional care or personal pastoral care, please reach out to Reverend Luke, Reverend Ruth, or myself. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing sadness, illness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. And we revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. This morning, we hold in our hearts Ann Black-Sinak and her family. Ann's younger brother, Michael Black, age 69, of Quincy, Illinois, died on March 28th of complications of ALS. As they deal with this loss, may Michael's spirit remain with them and all who knew him. Cards of support and well wishes are welcome for all. The list that is compiled weekly contains several members and friends of the church who are experiencing sadness or celebration and is posted in the entryway of the church as well as through a link in your e-news. We provide cards and postage and welcome you to leave those cards in the basket for mailing in the hallway. Here, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith is our focus. Let us carry that out into the wider world. May the faith in the spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
Breathe deep the breath of life. I invite you to be with me now in this moment. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning, and above you the sky and the stars, all of which are kin to you, as you yourself are made of earth and stars. And in this house you are named and known as beloved, as sacred. We are in this space a constellation of beloveds, drawing in strands of myriads of lives lived into this space. I invite you into this time of meditation, of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God of understanding and Gaia of bodily feeling. I don't need to say that at times it is heavy to breathe. When a deep breath is so suffused with second-hand punditry, easy opinions, social rancor, and world-weary cynicism, it can be enough to make us tear up and gasp for lighter air. When the onslaught of breaking news and hot takes would at times break us, it is hard not to slip into dark despair. And yet we also know the light. We have felt profound joy from a proffered smile, a well-placed word, a lovingly placed hand. Help us hold the light. Help us remember that when the dark despair of night would descend on us, that the bright light of joy and hope is also all around. Just like the dawn is always happening somewhere on our globe, help us remember the promise of joy is an eternal now. That in the midst of protest, we can sing and dance. That in the petition, there is gratitude for a voice. That in the crush of a malignant indifference, there are those that know us and name us as beloved. We hold in our hearts this day all those people and places who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring all those names you are holding in your heart this day, whether in joy or in sorrow, and silently or aloud now to speak their name. For all the names spoken and unspoken, may we be held in love. These words of meditation are from Thus Spake Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. It is true we love life, not because we are wont to live, but because we are wont to love. There is always some madness in love, but there is always also some method in madness. And to me also, who appreciate life, the butterflies and soap bubbles and whatever is like them amongst us, seem most to enjoy happiness. To see these light, foolish, pretty, lively little sprites flit about, that moveth me to tears and songs. I should only believe in a God that would know how to dance. And when I saw my devil, I found him serious, thorough, profound, solemn. He was the spirit of gravity. Through him all things fall. Not by wrath, but by laughter do we slay. Come, let us slay the spirit of gravity. I learned to walk. Since then, I have let myself run. I learned to fly. Since then, I do not need pushing in order to move from spot to spot. Now I am light. Now do I fly. Now do I see myself under myself. Now there danceth a God in me. The hymn is 279. By the waters of Babylon, I invite you to remain sitting.
Goodbye to Tolerance by Denise Levertov. Genial poets, pink-faced, earnest wits, you have given the world some choice morsels, gobbets of language presented as one presents a T-bone steak and Cherry's Jubilee. Goodbye, goodbye, I don't care if I never tasted your fine food again. Neutral fellows, seers of every side. Tolerance, what crimes are committed in your name? Are you good women, bakers of nicest bread, blood donors, your crumbs? Choke me, I would not want a drop of your blood in me. It is pumped by weak hearts, perfect pulses that never falter, irresponsive to the nightmare reality. It is my brothers and sisters whose blood spurts out and stops forever, because you choose to believe it is not your business. Goodbye, goodbye. Your poems shut their little mouths. Your loaves grow moldy as the gulf has split the ground between us. And you won't wave, you're looking another way. We shan't meet again unless you leap it, leaving behind you the cherished worms of your dispassion, your pallid ironies, your jovial, murderous, wry-humored, balanced judgment. Leap over unbalanced. Then how our fanatic tears would flow and mingle for joy.
Thank you, Joe. Picture this, a young woman alone in a foreign land, without family, without friends, finds herself a witness to a murder. That's how you start a sermon. This is the situation in which Hilda, in Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Marble Faun, finds herself. A daughter of New England Protestants, she initially travels to Catholic Rome to study art, where she stumbles upon the confrontation that ends in the crime. She flees from the scene and from her normal habits, so agitated by the events she witnessed and feeling so powerless, not knowing who to turn to or what to do, she ends up wandering the Eternal City looking for some form of distraction. But each distraction just reminds her of her own desperate situation. One day she stumbles into a large church. Without being aware of what she is doing, she suddenly, and as if it were done in a dream, found herself kneeling before a shrine. She laid her forehead on the marble steps before the altar and sobbed out a prayer. She hardly knew to whom, she hardly knew for what, save only a vague longing, and thus that the burden of her spirit might be lightened a little. In an instant, she snatched herself up, as it were, from her knees, all athrob with emotions that were struggling to force her way out of her heart by the avenue that had so nearly been opened to them. Yet there was a strange sense of relief won by that momentary passionate prayer, a strange joy she felt as one half stifled who had stolen a breath of air. So in that moment of anxiety, not knowing really what she was doing, Hilda found herself surprised by a strange joy. And isn't it true that some of the best times we have found joy is when it surprised us? We might be in a new place or among new people or engaged in a new activity when joy springs upon us. At times like Hilda, we simply stumble into joy, not fully aware of what we are doing until joy opens our eyes. We find to our shock and not to a little delight that we resonate with what is happening. We might walk away from the situation wishing to go back, making promises to go back, and to the others that we will go back to that place, those people, that activity. When we experience joy, we yearn for those experiences again. In this way, joy is a gift of revelation. It shows us what is important to us, even if we didn't know it beforehand. Joy makes us more intensely ourselves. It shows us what we care about, what we value. It opens the shining things of the world before us. When joy surprises us, we would create the situations again. This is not contentment. This is not passive bliss. Joy makes us crave engagement. It drives us to a definite action in the world. At its most powerful, then, joy can and should be seen as a commitment or a conversion to that which matters most for us because it holds us to our values and shapes our thoughts and actions around them. In this way, joy becomes dangerous. The revelation and energy accompanies joy makes it a problem for those who would wish to maintain a status quo or shape a society in a particular way, when especially our joy does not align with what they think a society should be. Those authorities or those who wish to maintain the norms of their society do their best then to stamp out or redirect joy. Take for an example, one of our founders, the Reverend John Murray. He found joy in the message of universal salvation. As he reflected years later about his thoughts on universal love, he wrote, "It became my pleasure, my consolation, and my highest enjoyment. I began to feed upon the truth, and every discovery filled me with unutterable transport. I regarded my friends with increasing affection, and I conceived if I had the opportunity of conversing with the whole world would be convinced. It might have been said that I had tasted heaven below." So he went on to try and convince the world. He preached universalism in England and in America, where in New England, he was imprisoned in Massachusetts by a vigilance committee headed by the local Congregationalist minister. The pastor made it very clear the reason for stopping Murray. "And here it may be affirmed without the least hesitation," he wrote, "that such a person is a false teacher who advances certain leading principles or tenets of religion, which have a tendency to produce very fatal consequences to the souls of men. Such is the doctrine of universal salvation as advanced by the stranger. He is one of those ministers of Satan who transformed themselves as apostles of Christ or as the ministers of righteousness, even as Satan transformed himself into an angel of light. Universal salvation, as taught by the stranger, naturally tends to turn the grace of God into lasciviousness, for nothing can have greater tendency than to teach that all men should finally be happy, even though they live and die as pagans. And the little children in our streets are already caught in the snare and say, we may swear and curse and lie and quarrel and do whatever we want that is bad without any danger of going to the devil in everlasting burnings, for Mr. Murray preaches that all men will be saved and happy forever." Released from prison, Murray found himself harassed and maligned constantly. He found, though, that he could not stop his message of universal love that could reach all of humanity. He found the joy of that word and found the joy that that word brought to others. He would not stop. This led him to preach the message of universal love in Boston, despite many warnings from local ministers not to bring his hearsay into their good city. He did it anyway. One night while preaching his joy, his building was attacked by a volley of stones being hurled through the windows. A 1.5-pound rock was hurled through the window, nearly missing his head. He was convinced that had it connected, it would have killed him. His congregation momentarily scattered. There were those attending who wished for his own safety and for theirs that they retire for the night. Murray walked over to where the projectile lay, picked it up, and examined it. He turned to his audience, who were calming a little, and hefting the stone, gave his judgment. "This argument," he said, raising the stone, "is solid and weighty, but it is neither rational or convincing." The threat of violence was not enough to stifle his joy, as he told his congregation that night, "Not all the stones in Boston shall shut my mouth or arrest my testimony." Hear, hear. This would not be the last time Murray was menaced with violence or stones, but he remained undaunted. Or consider the Unitarian Maria Weston Chapman. Born in 1807 to a well-to-do New England family, Chapman spent her early years being pampered and educated by the cream of society. She eventually married a wealthy Bostonian merchant whose family refused to engage in Southern cotton trade because of its links to slavery. As she started looking into the organization of abolitionists, of which her husband's family were a part, she found herself surprised by joy. The moral clarity, the joy that she experienced talking with the likes of William Lloyd Garrison and Lydia Maria Child galvanized her. She decided then and there that she would pursue the cause of her joy, abolition, no matter where it led. Chapman became the leader of Boston's abolitionist movement. At a meeting in October 1835, a violent mob descended on the annual meeting of the Boston Female Anti-Slavery Society, of which Chapman was a founder. The mob believed that a famous abolitionist speaker by the name of George Thompson would be speaking. Leading up to the event, notices began appearing in the Boston newspapers that read in part, "These dangerous abolitionists must be met. They agitate a question that must not be tampered with. They are plotting the destruction of our government." Another paper claimed they were plotting the complete moral upheaval of society, while another took a more hands-on approach. It claimed the meeting will be a contest between the abolitionists and the Friends of the Union. A purse of $100 has been raised by a number of patriotic citizens to reward the individual who shall first lay violent hands on Thompson so that he may be brought before the tar kettle. Before dark, Friends of the Union be vigilant. The day of the meeting came. Chapman and the rest of the abolitionist women assembled at their meeting place, as did the mob. The mob pounded the door and demanded Thompson, but Thompson was not there, having been smuggled out of the city the night before by Lydia Maria Child. Boston's mayor intervened and begged the women to end their meeting and go home before it was too late, to which Chapman responded, "If this is the last bulwark of freedom, we may as well die here as anywhere." The mayor remarked that no, you would not die here. But if you go home, he could promise their safety for a moment. The women voted. They decided they would not end their meeting. Instead, they would recess. Chapman lined up the women, 2 by 2, white women standing right next to black women, and led them as a procession from the building through the mob. As she recalled, "When we emerged into the open daylight, there went up a roar of rage and contempt, which increased when they saw that we did not intend to separate, but walked in regular procession. Marching through the mob, she noticed so-called wealthy and respectable, the moral worth, the gentlemen of property and standing of the city. These were the men who, leading up to the meeting, were stating the abolitionists were going to overthrow the government and their society. The abolitionist women marched through the mob in open defiance straight to Chapman's home to resume their meeting. I call this defiance because it is. In the same breath, we label this courage. That is also true. We also label it inspiring, empowering, and provocative. But behind all of this is the complex, surprising movement of joy that Chapman and her sister abolitionists found in the work. A joy she hoped that all would find. She wrote a letter to the women of New England where she wrote, "Let us rise in the moral power of womanhood and give utterance to the voice of outraged mercy and insulted justice and eternal truth and mighty love and holy freedom." Both Murray and Chapman, one a Universalist, one a Unitarian, found themselves surprised by joy that came when they realized they were wrapped in a mighty love. For Murray, that love was found in universal salvation. For Chapman, that love was the conviction of a shared humanity. In both cases, the societal authorities that would maintain their power could not abide that love or the joy that fired it. They saw that love as the work of the devil that would break the norms, destroy the Union, especially in the case of those that opposed abolition because it was seen as too extreme. They wanted nothing more than to remain irresponsive to nightmare reality. Joy does not mean we become blind to the problems before us, but it is a counterpoint to the rational that would say, there's nothing I can do about this. I am only one person. This is exactly what authority wants. Powers that seek to control and maintain the current system would have people isolated. They don't necessarily care if people are scared, angry, or complacent. As long as they are stuck in spaces by themselves, they can be controlled. In short, they want anything but joy. Joy pushes us into what a moderate would call the irrational. It has us take a running leap at the problem. And if we land unbalanced, as the poet reminds us, we at least find ourselves in the company of all the others who have also taken the leap into joy. Those powers that would maintain their oppression and those moderates who would not rock the boat would label the leapers fanatics. If we are, then, so be it. Because once the leap has happened, how our fanatic tears would flow and mingle for joy. With that, one final story. Think of a time when the government felt that the best way to gain income was through tariffs. Civil rights that had been hard fought were being rolled back or suppressed by political actors bent on maintaining their power. Wealthy businessmen used their enormous wealth to influence the government and shape public policy to empower themselves and their business interests. Corruption and cronyism blossomed like cancerous weed in the Garden of the Union. And as a distraction from all of that, society became obsessed with gender norms and what constituted true manliness. Into this environment of the 1870s, the transcendentalist minister, James Freeman Clarke, stepped in to remind his congregation what true manliness is. He said that the manly spirit shows itself in enterprise, the joy of meeting difficulties and overcoming them. False manliness is cynical, contemptuous, and tyrannical to inferiors. True manliness is humane. It says we who are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak. Its work is to protect those who cannot defend themselves, to stand between the tyrant and the slave, the oppressor and his victim. It provides help for the blind, the deaf, the dumb, the insane. It defends animals from being cruelly treated, rescues little children from bad usage, and seeks to give working men and women their rights. It protects all those sufferers from the false manliness, which is brutal and tyrannical to the weak, abusing its power over them. True manliness today is shown in those who organize and carry on the societies to prevent cruelty. Clark is under no false notion that the work of standing up to the Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, and Carnegies of the world is easy. He was harassed for his message. He was scorned by those who would dominate. But he kept preaching, kept calling their cowardice, their false manliness out for what it is, a lie. But that, and this is important, he was not looking for a single heroic individual to stand up and save the day. Clark was looking for community. He was looking for those willing to take the leap into the arms of those who have already leapt. Clark is calling for a humaneness that will not tolerate brutality. He would have us say goodbye to tolerance, to moderation, and leap to those who are organizing and carrying on the societies to prevent and withstand cruelty. We have a long history of people who have found joy in the work of love and liberation. We are no different than they. As Unitarian Universalists, we feel the joy that comes from declaring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We have already leapt. When the dappled sun shines through the branches of the trees, we have felt the joy of the interconnected universe. We have already leapt. For the Bostonians who thought that when universal love and abolition won the day, it would lead to a societal collapse and the loosing of the devil to create a hell on earth, Murray, Chapman, and Clark and all their fellow UUs leapt to make their societies more just, equitable, and open to all. If today there are those who think that our message of inclusion, equity, liberation, and love is just as destructive and hellish, may we find the courage, like our ancestors, to leap again, unbalanced, into the joy we have already felt, to organize and bring to the oppressors and domineering a holy hell. The hymn is 140, Hail the Glorious Golden City. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Beloveds, I invite you to place a hand over your heart, towards the sky, towards the earth. Modifying the words of the Reverend John Murray, go yonder and gather the people, give them courage and hope. Tell them of the love that you have found here. And while on your way, if you are met by those who call you the children of the devil, make sure the hell you give them is a holy one.
Loose lips might sink ship, but loose gooses take trips to San Francisco, double Dutch disco, tech TV hottie. Do it for Scotty, do it for the living and do it for the dead. Do it for the monsters under your bed. Do it for the teenagers and do it for your mom. Broken hearts hurt, but they make us strong, and we won't stop until somebody calls the cops, and even then we'll start again and just pretend that nothing ever happened. We won't stop until somebody calls the cops, and even then we'll start again and just pretend that nothing ever happened. We're just dancing, we're just hugging, singing, screaming, kissing, tugging on the sleeve of how it used to be. How's it gonna be? I'll drop kick Russell Stover, move into the starting over house, and no Matt Rout and just are watching me achieve my dreams. And we'll pray all damn day, every day, that all this shit our president has got us in will go away, while we strive to figure out a way we can survive our trying times without losing our minds. And if you wanna burn yourself, remember that I love you. And if you wanna cut yourself, remember that I love you. And if you wanna kill yourself, remember that I love you. Call me up before you're dead, we can make some plans instead. Send me a DM, I'll be your friend. Shysters live from scheme to scheme, but my fourth quarter pipe dream is seeming more and more worth fighting for. I'll curate some situations, make a job a big vacation, and I'll say fuck Bush and fuck this war. My war paint is Sharpie ink, and I'll show you how much my shit stinks and ask you what you think, because your thoughts and words are powerful. They think we're disposable, well, both my thumbs opposable, spelled out on a double word and triple letter score. Hey, we won't stop until somebody calls the cops, and even then we'll start again and just pretend that nothing ever happened. We won't stop until somebody calls the cops, and even then we'll start again and just pretend that nothing ever happened. We're just dancing, we're just hugging, singing, screaming, kissing, tugging on the sleeve of how it used to be.